Hi guys, Pavi is back. I can't let today pass without speaking on another controversial Jannik Sinner moment in tennis. And this has got to be up there as one of the most controversial and scandalous decisions, really, that I have seen with Jannik Sinner. And let's be honest, we're starting to see quite a few of these mounting up. And for someone who doesn't believe in coincidences, this does not look good for Jannik Sinner or for the whole of tennis. Now, the latest incident was when I went to sleep eventually last night at about 2 a.m. My body clock is all over the place. I was watching Elliot Spizzirri play against Jannik Sinner, and Elliot Spizzirri was outplaying Jannik Sinner. He took the first set. The stats for the first set were phenomenal. The number of unforced errors made by Jannik Sinner was more than double his winners, almost unrecognizable. Elliot Spizzirri broke Jannik Sinner to love twice in that set. He was in complete control. Sinner fought back. Now, you've got to remember, Elliot Spizzirri has never been to the round three of a slam before. He's ranked number 85 in the world. He's not expected to get hardly any games against Sinner, let alone, really challenge him. I then went to sleep at 1-all and then was woken this morning with a flurry of DMs and text messages and WhatsApp saying, OMG, you're going to have to see what Sinner's done now. Now, what it transpired to be was it went into set 3 and Elliot Spizzirri started to take control of the match again and went 3-1 up. Now, many of you would have seen the footage, and Sinner has got this crazy cramp where it seems to impact his legs and his arms, and it almost looks like he's paralyzed. And some of you would have seen that against Talon Grixpor in Beijing, and he had to retire. Now, people at the stadium have told me that Sinner, that they thought he was going to retire because he couldn't walk. He was that bad that he was really, really struggling, and it was a case of probably minutes before Jannik Sinner was going to retire from that match. He never retired. Now, there's some really interesting audio footage that has come out from that, because Jannik Sinner is kind of looking towards Darren Cahill when he's almost kind of looking like, should I retire? Because I'm in trouble here. I don't know what's going on. I'm in trouble. Now, Darren Cahill responds back to him and says, keep going. You can't retire. Keep going. Finish the set. Even if you walk through the set, just keep going. Now, this is very similar to kind of any of you who follow boxing and they have a trainer. And if the boxer, particularly if it's a young boxer and they're in a big fight, but they're getting badly beat up, and it's up to the trainer to kind of throw in the towel or kind of advise their boxer, look, we're going to pull you out of here because, things aren't looking good for you. The whole point of a trainer and a physio and a coach is they're supposed to have your back kind of physically, because they know that they're going to look after you. They're going to, they're supposed to be part of your decision-making process when you've got injuries. Now, Darren Cahill to tell Jannik Sinner to keep on playing, like, that he kind of downplays this injury. And Sinner's 25, so, he could be having, at this point, he's looking in a pretty bad nick. You would probably think a normal coach would say, put your health first. If it's too bad, just retire. Darren Cahill told him to keep on playing. Okay, so this is the first red flag for me. ESPN then showed the heat index as being a 4. Now, in 2019, the Australian Open brought this new heat index thing into play, which I think is actually a good idea, actually. And you kind of measure the heat, and if it gets too bad, if it gets to a 5, then the umpires can suspend the sport, the game. And if there's a roof, then they can bring the roof into play, which will obviously cool up the stadium a little bit. Now, ESPN, when Elliot Spizzirri went 3-1 up, Jannik Sinner is on the verge of retiring, showed the heat index as being a 4. And a 4 is playable. So you don't suspend it. Literally a few seconds later, that heat index, and this is just after Darren Cahill saying hang about, stay about, goes to a 5. Now, the umpire suspends play almost immediately. Okay, so there was 2 more games that were played in the Musetti game on Margaret Court Arena. Now, at that point, when Sinner was 3-1 down, he was barely even running for the ball. So it would have probably taken 5 minutes for Elliot Spizzirri to win that set. And then he goes 2-1 up. But the umpire basically suspended play straight away. So this is literally probably seconds or minutes before Jannik Sinner would have to retire, because he literally wasn't able to move. And you have to show some sort of effort. We saw recently where an umpire gave a warning to Daniel Medvedev, who had cramp, to say that you're not trying. So Sinner was in the borders here of getting was pulling out. Make no mistake of that. Now, what happened afterwards is even more bizarre. Now, Darren Cahill follows Craig Tiley, who is the tournament director. Why isn't Darren Cahill going to be with his player, be his team, talk about how are you doing, what's wrong? He goes to Craig Tiley. So what's going on there? What's the conversation there? He shouldn't be anywhere near Craig Tiley. This is a professional sport. You shouldn't be what the coach in the ear of the tournament director. What was he asking for? I don't know. But after they had an almost 8-minute break for the roof to come on, it was then after the set they had another 10-minute heat policy kind of break go on. And this is even when the roof is on. So you look at the time here that Sinner has got. And the most concerning thing for me, really, watching is first of all, if you look at the number of cramps that Jannik Sinner has started to get in the last few months, they coincide with Humberto Ferreira coming back to his team. So Jannik Sinner had a history of cramping in his younger age, which a lot of young players do. He's now, 24, 25? He's past that stage. He's supposed to be one of the fittest athletes in the year. But Humberto Ferreira comes back into his team in August of 2025. Sinner then retires in his match against Alcaraz in the Cincinnati final, not looking in great shape. He then has he then fully retires against Talon Griekspoor in Beijing, not looking in great shape. He now started cramping in just set 3. So they've not been playing for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, as we've seen other athletes, and cramping in the most unusual of manners. Now, if you look at it and think, something's not quite right here, we've got to remember that Jannik Sinner has failed 2 drug tests for a performance-enhancing substance, and he said that substance came from Humberto Ferreira. Now, that is the reason why Jannik Sinner sacked him, because he said that he was being negligible, even though Humberto Ferreira said he was using it for personal use. It somehow got contaminated, apparently, through a massage. Now, Ferreira is now back in his team, and Sinner is suddenly starting to cramp. So what is going on here? Now, the other question that I would ask is that Sinner was in a room for 8 minutes with no supervision, with, so, he can pretty much do what he wants. He was asked about it in the press conference, and he basically said, it was just a room. There was nothing there. There was no treatment done. Do you believe Jannik Sinner? Has he got a history of telling the truth? I don't know, because as I said, the red flags and the coincidences are starting to mount up. Now, let's just have a look a little bit at the history in the last year or so. Obviously, we've had the biggest one. Jannik Sinner fails 2 drug tests. He keeps it quiet for months. He's allowed to play. He's allowed to become world number 1. He is allowed to win title after title before finally the news breaks after almost 6 months. Was that because of a whistleblower? Because how would it take 6 months? Even Roger Federer said at the time, how was he allowed to keep playing under the investigation? And whilst the investigation hadn't even found out if he was innocent or not. Obviously, then the ITIA decided that, they believed this story. WADA didn't. WADA, for the first time ever, appealed an ITI decision. It's the first time in history that they've done that in tennis. And the case was set to go to the Court Arbitration of Sport. Now, the Court Arbitration of Sport had a very, very similar case with Stefano Battaglino, who was another Italian player who at the same time was also found for a tiny amount of clostebol, and he also said that it was due to contamination from a physio massage. The key difference was that this massage was not on Stefano Battaglino's payroll, whereas Giacomo Naldi was on Jannik Sinner's payroll. Okay, he got banned for 4 years at the Court Arbitration of Sport. Now, Jannik Sinner was set to go to the Court Arbitration of Sport on April the 16th and 17th, 2025. A case had been allocated. Arbitrators for the case had been allocated. Sinner decided that he did not want to go to the Court Arbitration of Sport, which is independent, which the ITIA isn't, because it is funded solely by tennis. And tennis, some of its key sponsors that sponsor tennis also sponsor Jannik Sinner. So you can say that's a conflict of interest. Why did he not want to go to an independent court to prove his innocence? So that's obviously one big thing. Last year, he was struggling against Holger Rune. It was 1 set all. Rune was getting on top. It was another really, really hot day. Sinner then asks the umpire for an injury timeout. He goes off court for 10 minutes, leaving Rune in the boiling heat. Comes back, change man, goes on to win the game. Wimbledon this year, everyone who watched the match against Dimitrov went 2 sets to 0 up. It's about 8 o'clock. There's still over an hour left of light. Wimbledon decided to put the roof on. There was a big delay, 10-15 minutes of the roof delay. Andy Murray tweeted at the time and said, I don't understand this decision, because there's enough time light to get at least one more set in. And Dimitrov, of course, just needed one more set to complete that win. What happened? There was a big delay. Sinner came out looking fresh. Dimitrov, cold, 10 minutes. He's also advanced stage, then picks up an injury and has to retire. Okay. And now today, we have had a similar scenario where Sinner looks like he's in big, big trouble and he's about to retire, and this time he is saved by the heat index. Now, where is this heat index coming from? It's not just based on temperature, it's based on residual temperatures, humidity, quite a lot of things. Who's controlling that? Where are they getting that information from? Who is the person that is changing the button to say, yep, it is now 5? Is it automated? Is it manual? We don't know. We need all of these questions answered. But all I can say is that today is yet another red flag that goes against Jannik Sinner. And how many more red flags are people going to put up with? Because I can tell you, with my inbox and my WhatsApp messages today, there were prominent people in tennis that are not happy. They are not happy with what is happening in tennis at the moment. And people are going to start really scrutinizing Jannik Sinner. Even those people that are part of the establishment, you've got to think, enough is enough. How far are you willing to let someone go? Was it just a stroke of luck? Was it a coincidence? Or is there some more sinister actions and forces in play here? Let me know what you think. But as I said, for me, it doesn't really surprise me anymore. And I think you can't keep on getting this lucky, or coincidence can't keep on happening. But let's see. It's been a really crazy Australian Open. We're just coming to the end of week 1. Probably been the most talked about Australian Open ever. There's been a lot of controversies, a lot of stuff going off the court as well as on the court. But I guess it's keeping us all glued and seeing what happened next. So let me know your thoughts. That's Pavi G's thoughts. For me, I just think there's red flags, there's suspicions, and we need more people to scrutinize what exactly is going on in the locker room, what exactly is going on in tennis. And if that's a case of it being a player or a coach that has access, then do a good citizen journalism job as well as your day job and start scrutinizing. And if you get any information that may be of interest, my inboxes are always open to take any interesting information. Right. Hope you guys are all well. God bless, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will see you guys soon. Take care. Bye.